My son stole all my savings from my bank account and wrote, "Tomorrow I'm getting married and leaving. Live however you want. Bye." I didn't say a word. He didn't know that the account was in the name of... Good day, dear listeners. It's Larissa again. I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end and let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. I had spent 63 years building a life I could be proud of. My husband, Robert, and I had raised our son, Michael, in a modest 3-bedroom house in Portland, Oregon. After Robert passed away from a heart attack 7 years ago, the house felt too big, too quiet, but I stayed. The mortgage was paid off and every corner held memories I wasn't ready to abandon. Michael was our only child. We'd given him everything: college education, a car when he graduated, help with his first apartment deposit. Maybe we gave too much. After Robert died, I noticed something shift in Michael. He visited less. His calls became shorter, more transactional. "Hey, Mom, can you lend me some money for rent?" Or, "Mom, my car broke down again." I always said yes. What else was I supposed to do? He was my son. 6 months before the incident, Michael started bringing Jessica around. She was 26, 10 years younger than him, with perfectly manicured nails and designer handbags that didn't match her supposed struggling artist career. Something about her smile never reached her eyes. When she looked at my house, I could practically see her mentally calculating its value. "Your mother has such a beautiful home," Jessica would say, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "She must be so comfortable here, all alone." The comment always felt like a probe, testing boundaries. Then came the small things. Michael asked about my finances more frequently. "Mom, are you managing okay on your pension?" He'd never cared before. I'd worked 30 years as a school librarian, retired with a decent pension, and had Robert's life insurance payout safely tucked away in a savings account. I wasn't rich, but I was secure. "I'm fine, sweetheart," I'd tell him, but he kept pushing. "You should really think about getting help managing your money, Mom. At your age, memory issues can creep up." At my age? I was 71. Not 90. My mind was sharp as ever. But Michael planted that seed deliberately, I realize now. He wanted me to doubt myself. 3 weeks before it happened, I noticed my checkbook wasn't where I'd left it. I found it eventually, tucked between cookbooks in the kitchen. Strange. I was meticulous about these things. Then my bank statements stopped arriving. When I called the bank, they told me the mailing address had been changed to a P.O. box I'd never heard of. "But ma'am, you authorized this change in person 2 weeks ago," the representative insisted. I hadn't set foot in that bank in months. "There must be a mistake," I said. "They promised to investigate." I felt the first real flutter of fear in my chest. 2 days later, Michael showed up unannounced with Jessica. They sat on my couch, holding hands, grinning like lottery winners. "Mom, we have amazing news!" Michael's eyes shone with an excitement I hadn't seen since he was a boy. "Jessica and I are getting married." I should have felt joy. Instead, I felt dread pooling in my stomach. "That's wonderful, honey," I managed. "When?" "Tomorrow," Jessica squealed. "We're eloping to Vegas. Isn't it romantic?" Tomorrow? They'd been dating 6 months and now they were rushing to get married in 24 hours. What was the urgency? "Don't you want to have a proper wedding?" I asked carefully. "Let me help plan something nice." "No time, Mom. We want to start our new life together immediately." Michael's tone was firm, final. "Actually, we're going to move out of state. Fresh start, My heart sank. "Move? Where?" "Arizona, maybe California. We haven't decided yet." They left an hour later, leaving me sitting in my living room, hands trembling. The next morning, I woke to check my bank account online, something I'd recently learned to do. The screen loaded, and my blood turned to ice. Balance: $287.43. There should have been $186,000, my entire life savings, Robert's life insurance, everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael. Tomorrow I'm getting married and leaving. Live however you want. Bye. Not, I love you. Not, thank you for everything. Just, bye. I sat there staring at that message, my hands shaking so violently I nearly dropped the phone. How could my own son do this to me? Then I noticed something he didn't know. Something he couldn't have known. The account he'd drained wasn't just in my name. It was a joint account, with my sister Patricia listed as co-owner. I sat frozen at my kitchen table for what felt like hours. But the clock told me only 20 minutes had passed. 20 minutes since my entire world had collapsed. 20 minutes since I'd discovered my son had stolen my life savings. $186,000. Gone. That wasn't just money. That was Robert's legacy. That was the insurance payout from his death. Money that was supposed to keep me safe. Keep me independent in my old age. That was 30 years of careful saving, of skipping vacations, of mending clothes instead of buying new ones. I pulled up my bank records, my hands still trembling, and traced backward through the transactions. There it was. A wire transfer made 3 days ago. Authorization code showed it had been done in person at the branch. But I hadn't been there. Someone had impersonated me. The police? I should call the police, shouldn't I? My finger hovered over my phone, but then I stopped. Michael was my son. If I reported this, he'd be arrested for fraud, for theft, for identity theft. He'd go to prison. Despite everything, despite the betrayal burning in my chest, could I really do that to my own child? And there was another problem. A bigger problem. Who would believe me? Michael had spent weeks setting the stage, planting suggestions that I was losing my memory, becoming confused. If I went to the police now, would they just see a forgetful old woman who'd given her son money and forgotten about it? Jessica would back him up. They'd probably already crafted their story. I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but I blinked them away furiously. No, I wouldn't cry. Crying was what they'd expect. Crying was what a helpless old woman would do. I wasn't helpless. I picked up my phone and called Patricia, my younger sister in Seattle. She answered on the second ring. Eleanor, it's 7 in the morning. What's wrong? Pat, I need you to check something for me. My voice was steadier than I expected. Can you log into our joint account? The one we set up for emergencies? There was a pause, the sound of Patricia moving around. The one at First National? Ellie, I haven't looked at that account in years. You said you were using it for your savings, and I was just listed as backup in case anything happened to you. I know, just check it, please. I heard typing, then a sharp intake of breath. Eleanor, the balance shows $287. Wasn't there? $186,000, I finished. There was. I told her everything. The strange behavior, Jessica's calculating looks, the missing checkbook, the changed mailing address, Michael's sudden announcement, the text message. Patricia listened in stunned silence. That bastard, she finally whispered. Ellie, we need to call the police right now. No. What do you mean, no? He robbed you. He robbed us, I corrected. That account has your name on it too, Pat, which means he didn't just steal from me. I could practically hear the wheels turning in Patricia's mind. She was a retired paralegal, sharp as a tack, and she understood immediately what I was getting at. He committed bank fraud, Patricia said slowly. He forged your signature, maybe your ID wire fraud if he moved money across state lines. And, oh God, Ellie, if he impersonated you at the bank, there might be security footage. Exactly. But you just said you didn't want to call the police. I stood up, pacing my kitchen. Through the window, I could see my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, watering her roses. Normal life, continuing as if mine hadn't just shattered. Not yet. I want to do this right. I want to be absolutely certain of what happened and have evidence they can't dispute. Because, Pat, you know Michael. He'll claim I gave him permission. He'll say I was confused, that I'm old and forgetful. You're 71 and you beat me at Scrabble every week. Despite everything, I almost smiled. I need you to do something for me. Can you go to the bank in person? You're listed on the account. Request copies of all recent transaction records, all authorization forms, any security footage from when that transfer was made. Tell them we're concerned about potential fraud. I'll go today, Patricia promised. What else? I need to find out where Michael really is. That text said they were getting married and leaving. I need to know if they actually went to Vegas or if that was another lie. I can call around to Vegas wedding chapels, Patricia offered. There are only so many that do quick ceremonies. Good. My mind was clearing now, the initial shock giving way to cold, calculated planning. And Pat? Don't tell anyone about this yet. Not even your husband. Michael can't know we're onto him. After we hung up, I sat back down and opened my laptop. I'd learned to use social media reluctantly, mostly to see photos of friends' grandchildren. Now I searched for Jessica's profile. There. Her Facebook page set to public, full of photos and posts. I scrolled through carefully, and there, from 2 hours ago, a photo of her and Michael at the airport, captioned, "Vegas baby," so they had actually gone. They were really getting married. With my money. A plan was forming in my mind. A cold, careful plan. Michael thought he'd won. He thought he'd outsmarted his elderly mother, taken everything, and disappeared. But he'd made one critical mistake. He didn't know Patricia was on that account, which meant he didn't know I had an ally with legal standing to pursue this. And he certainly didn't know what I was capable of when someone threatened everything I had left. Patricia called me back 6 hours later. I'd spent that time documenting everything I could remember: dates, conversations, strange incidents. My librarian training had taught me to be thorough, methodical. If this was going to be a war, I needed ammunition. "Ellie, you need to sit down for this," Patricia said. I was already sitting, but I gripped the phone tighter. "Tell me." I went to First National, spoke with the branch manager, Mr. Hendricks. At first, he was defensive. Banks hate admitting their security was breached. But when I showed him my ID and proved I was a co-owner on the account, he agreed to pull the records. And the wire transfer was initiated in person 3 days ago at 2:47 p.m. The person who did it presented ID in your name, a driver's license. They signed all the authorization forms. Ellie, it wasn't Michael. My heart stopped. What? It was Jessica. The security footage shows her clear as day. She was wearing a wig, gray, styled like your hair. She had glasses like yours. She even wore a cardigan similar to one you own. The teller was new, barely 3 weeks on the job. She didn't catch it, Jessica. Of course. Michael wouldn't risk it himself. He'd sent his fiancée to do his dirty work. Did you get copies of everything? I'm holding them right now. Transaction records, authorization forms with her signature. She tried to copy your handwriting, Ellie, but it's obviously not yours. And the security footage. Mr. Hendricks was horrified when he realized what happened. He's filing an internal fraud report and said the bank will cooperate fully with any police investigation. Don't file a police report yet, I said quickly. Eleanor, trust me, Pat, not yet. I need to talk to a lawyer first. I want to understand all my options. After we hung up, I called Martin Wesley, an attorney I'd known for years through the library. He'd always told me if I ever needed legal help, to call him. Now I was taking him up on that offer. Martin listened to my story, asked pointed questions, and then was silent for a long moment. Eleanor, this is serious. Wire fraud, identity theft, bank fraud, these are federal crimes. Your son and his fiancée could face 10 to 20 years in prison. I understand. Do you? Because once we start this process, there's no going back. The FBI might get involved. This isn't a family dispute anymore. This is a felony. I thought about Michael's text, the casual cruelty of it. Live however you want. Bye. No remorse, no guilt, just dismissal. Like I was garbage he was throwing away. I want to move forward, I said firmly, but strategically. What are my options? Martin outlined several approaches. We could file a police report immediately. We could wait and gather more evidence. We could attempt to contact Michael and Jessica first, give them a chance to return the money. That last option made me laugh bitterly. They're not going to return it, Martin. They spent weeks planning this. Probably not, he agreed. But here's what I suggest. Let's gather every piece of evidence we can over the next few days. Bank records, security footage, documentation of the forged ID, phone records, anything. Build an airtight case. Then we file criminal charges and a civil lawsuit simultaneously. The criminal charges will freeze their assets. They won't be able to spend your money. The civil suit will force them to return it. How long will this take? With the evidence you already have, we could file by the end of the week. 3 days later, Patricia drove down from Seattle with a folder full of documents. We sat at my kitchen table, spreading everything out. Bank statements, security footage stills showing Jessica in her disguise, handwriting analysis Martin had arranged, proving the signatures were forged, phone records showing Michael had called the bank 2 weeks prior, asking about wire transfer procedures. They'd planned this so carefully, but they'd also left a trail. There's something else, Patricia said quietly. She pulled out her phone and showed me Jessica's Facebook page. Look at this post from this morning. It was a photo of Jessica wearing an enormous diamond ring, standing next to Michael in front of the Bellagio. Fountains in Las Vegas. The caption read, "Just married to my amazing husband, starting our new life with endless possibilities. Hashtag blessed. Hashtag Vegas wedding. Hashtag rich life. Rich life." She'd actually written rich life with my money, with Robert's legacy. My hands curled into fists. She's mocking me. She doesn't know you're onto her yet, Patricia observed. She thinks she got away with it. That evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Mom? Michael's voice slightly slurred, happy. Drunk on champagne and victory. Mom, I just wanted to say, no hard feelings, okay? You'll be fine. You've got your pension. That's enough for an old lady like you, an old lady like me. As if I was already 1 foot in the grave, as if my life didn't matter anymore. Where are you, Michael? I kept my voice neutral, giving nothing away. Vegas, baby, we got married. Jessica's amazing, Mom. You should see the suite we're staying in. We're going to Hawaii next week. Then we're thinking about buying a house in Scottsdale. Fresh start, like I said. A house in Scottsdale, with my money. That sounds wonderful, sweetheart. I'm happy for you. The words tasted like poison, but I forced them out sweet as honey. Really? You're not mad? How could I be mad? You're starting your life. That's what mothers want for their children. I could hear him relax, hear the relief in his voice. He'd been worried I'd fight back. Now he thought he was safe. Thanks, Mom. I knew you'd understand. Look, I gotta go. Jessica wants to hit the casino. I'll call you. Sometime. He hung up. I sat there holding the phone and smiled. He had no idea what was coming. On Friday morning, exactly 1 week after Michael's text message, I walked into the Portland Police Department with Patricia, Martin Wesley, and a briefcase full of evidence. The detective assigned to our case was a woman in her 40s named Sarah Morrison. She had kind eyes but a steel spine, the type of person who'd seen enough to be skeptical, but still cared enough to be thorough. I laid out everything, the timeline, the forged signatures, the security footage, the texts, Jessica's social media posts flaunting their rich life. Detective Morrison's expression grew darker as she reviewed the materials. Mrs. Hartwell, I'm going to be honest with you. This is one of the clearest cases of identity theft and wire fraud I've seen. Your son and his wife are looking at serious federal charges. I understand. Do you? She looked at me directly. Because once I submit this, it's out of your hands. The FBI will likely get involved. Your son will be arrested. I met her gaze without flinching. He stole my late husband's life insurance money. He left me with less than $300. He told me to live however you want and said goodbye like I was trash. Yes, detective. I understand exactly what I'm doing. She nodded slowly. All right, let's do this. The paperwork took hours. Statement after statement. Timeline confirmations. By the time we left the police station, it was dark outside. Martin drove Patricia and me home. They'll freeze any accounts in Michael's or Jessica's names, Martin explained. Issue warrants. Since they crossed state lines, the FBI will coordinate with Nevada authorities. Give it 48 hours. It took 36. I was having coffee on Sunday morning when my phone exploded with calls. Michael, Michael, Michael. 15 missed calls in 10 minutes. Then a text. Mom, what the fuck did you do? Another. Police just came to our hotel. Another. Our bank accounts are frozen. Another. You fucking bitch, how could you do this to your own son? I didn't respond. I simply forwarded the messages to Detective Morrison and Martin. An hour later, Patricia called. Ellie, turn on your phone notifications. Jessica is losing her mind on Facebook. I opened the app. Jessica had posted a long, rambling rant. Can't believe some evil old woman is trying to ruin our lives. We just got married and started our future, and now she's lying to police claiming we stole from her when she gave us the money. Old people get confused and then blame everyone else. This is elder abuse of US. Hashtag false accusations. Hashtag family betrayal. Hashtag praying for justice. The comments were divided. Some people were supportive of Jessica. Others asked pointed questions. Why would she give you $186,000? Did you get that in writing? Something seems off here. Then Michael called again. This time I answered. How could you? His voice was raw, furious. I'm your son, your only child, and you're trying to send me to prison? You stole from me, Michael. I didn't steal anything. You were going to waste that money anyway. You don't need it. You're old. What are you going to do with it? Buy a sports car? The sheer entitlement in his voice took my breath away. He actually believed he deserved my money more than I did. That money was your father's life insurance, I said quietly. It was supposed to take care of me for the rest of my life. You took everything. You have your pension. That's not the point. Then what is the point, Mom? Huh? You want to see me in prison? You want to destroy my life? Jessica's life? We just got married. You destroyed your own life when you committed fraud. Fuck you! He was screaming now. You're a bitter old hag who can't stand to see me happy? You're jealous. Jessica said you would do this. She said you were toxic and controlling. Ah, there it was. Jessica whispering poison in his ear, turning him against me. If Jessica is so smart, she should have known there were cameras at the bank, I said calmly. We have footage of her pretending to be me. We have her signature on forged documents. This isn't about family drama, Michael. This is about crime. Silence. Then Jessica's voice in the background. Let me talk to her. The phone rustled. Jessica came on, her voice syrupy sweet. Eleanor, hi, it's Jessica. Listen, I think there's been a huge misunderstanding here. I saw you on the security camera. Gray wig, my glasses, my cardigan. Her sweetness evaporated. You can't prove that was me. Actually, the FBI's facial recognition software already did. Detective Morrison called me this morning. More silence. Then, you're making a mistake, old woman. You have no idea who you're messing with. My family has lawyers, real lawyers. We're going to bury you. Your family? I almost laughed. Jessica, I know exactly who you are. I had a private investigator look into you this week. Your real name is Jessica Brennan. You've been engaged 3 times before, twice to men over 60. Both relationships ended mysteriously when the men's bank accounts were drained. You're a con artist, and now you're a federal criminal. I heard her sharp intake of breath. The difference between those other men and me, I continued, is that I'm not a lonely old man you can manipulate. I'm a woman who worked 30 years, raised a family, buried a husband, and I will not let some 2-bit grifter steal my husband's legacy. Jessica's voice turned vicious. We'll make you drop the charges. We'll come back there and make your life hell until you do. Come ahead, I said. The restraining order will be filed tomorrow. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from fury, from the adrenaline of finally fighting back. Patricia came over that evening with wine and takeout Chinese food. You need to rest, Ellie. This is a lot. She was right. I was exhausted. The past week had drained me emotionally in ways I hadn't expected. Fighting your own child, even when that child has betrayed you, tears something fundamental inside you. Stay with me for a few days? I asked. I was planning on it, Patricia said, squeezing my hand. That night, I slept for 12 hours straight. I woke Tuesday morning to find my inbox flooded with emails. Michael had clearly spent the night trying different approaches. The first few were angry, threatening legal action, claiming I was senile and vindictive. But then the tone shifted. Mom, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Please, let's talk about this. Let's talk about... I panicked. Jessica pressured me. It wasn't my idea. You're right. I made a terrible mistake. Can we work this out as a family? I deleted them all without responding. An hour later, a flower delivery arrived. 24 roses with a card. Please forgive us. We love you. Michael and Jessica. I gave them to Mrs. Chen next door. She was delighted. Wednesday brought a certified letter. I opened it to find a check for $50,000 and a handwritten note from Michael. This is a start. I'll pay back everything, I promise. Just drop the charges, please, Mom. I can't go to prison. My life will be over. $50,000. Out of $186,000. I called Martin immediately. They're trying to buy their way out. Don't cash that check, he warned. If you do, they'll claim it was a gift and you accepted it, which muddies the criminal case. Let me handle this. Martin sent a formal letter to the lawyer Michael and Jessica had hastily hired. Any restitution would need to be full, immediate, and would not result in dropped charges. The criminal case would proceed regardless. Thursday evening, my phone rang. Unknown number again, but from Nevada. I debated answering, then decided to hear what they had to say. Eleanor. It was a man's voice, smooth and confident. My name is Richard Brennan. I'm Jessica's father. Ah, the family with real lawyers Jessica had threatened me with. Mr. Brennan, I understand there's been some trouble between you and the kids. I want you to know that Jessica is a good girl. She made a mistake, yes, but she doesn't deserve to go to prison over a family misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was fraud. Semantics. His voice hardened slightly. Here's what I'm prepared to offer. Full restitution of the $186,000, plus an additional $50,000 for your trouble and legal fees. In exchange, you drop all charges. Everyone walks away. No. Mrs. Hartwell, I don't think you understand. I understand perfectly, I interrupted. Your daughter is a con artist who's done this before. She targeted my son, manipulated him, and together they stole everything I had. Money can be replaced. The principal cannot. You're making this personal. It is personal. She stole my husband's life insurance. She mocked me on social media. She called me an old woman and told me I didn't need the money. So yes, Mr. Brennan, it's extremely personal. You're a fool, he said coldly. We're offering you more than you lost. Take the deal. Goodbye, Mr. Brennan. I hung up, and my hands were steady this time. Friday afternoon, Patricia convinced me to join her at the community center. "You've been cooped up all week. Come play cards with us." I'd been a regular at the senior center's Friday bridge games for years, but I hadn't been back since the theft. Partly because I was busy with lawyers and police, partly because I was ashamed. What kind of mother raises a son who steals from her? But Patricia was right. I needed normalcy. I needed support. When I walked into the community room, conversations stopped. Everyone knew. Small-town networks being what they are, word had spread. Then Doris Wheeler, the Bridge Club president, stood up and started clapping. About damn time someone fought back against these entitled brats. The others joined in. Applause. Actual applause. Martha Chen hugged me. "My nephew tried to trick me into signing over my house last year. I was too scared to fight him. What you're doing, it's brave." Tom Rodriguez, whose grandson had stolen his identity to open credit cards, shook my hand. "You give him hell, Eleanor." I sat down at the card table, surrounded by people who understood. People who'd been taken advantage of by family members, who'd been dismissed as confused or senile, who'd had their lives' savings threatened. "How are you holding up?" Doris asked quietly as she dealt the cards. "Honestly, some days I'm angry. Some days I'm heartbroken. But I'm not backing down." "Good," she said firmly. "You know what the worst part is? They count on us being too ashamed to fight back. Too afraid of looking like bad parents or grandparents. They weaponize our love against us." She was right. That's exactly what Michael had done. He'd counted on me being too devastated, too embarrassed, too consumed by maternal guilt to press charges. He'd miscalculated. After bridge, Patricia and I got coffee at the cafe across the street. I felt lighter than I had in days. "You have a whole community behind you," Patricia observed. "You're not alone in this." "I know." I stirred my coffee thoughtfully. Martin called this morning. The FBI formally charged Michael and Jessica with wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. Their arraignment is next week. How do you feel about that? How did I feel? Sad, angry, vindicated, guilty, determined, all of it at once. "I feel like I'm doing the right thing," I said finally, "even though it's the hardest thing I've ever done." That weekend was quiet. No calls from Michael, no emails, no flower deliveries or certified letters. Just silence. I knew they hadn't given up. This was the eye of the storm, the temporary calm before they tried something else. But I also knew I was ready. I had Martin. I had Patricia. I had the Bridge Club ladies who'd survived their own family betrayals. I had evidence. I had the law on my side, and I had something Michael and Jessica didn't understand. The absolute conviction that came from knowing I was right. The calm lasted exactly 6 days. On the following Thursday afternoon, I was in my garden, pruning the roses Robert had planted 15 years ago, when a car pulled into my driveway. A rental car. My stomach dropped before I even saw who stepped out. Michael and Jessica. They weren't supposed to be here. Their conditions of bail prohibited them from contacting me directly. But here they were, walking up my driveway with expressions I couldn't quite read. I stood up slowly, pruning shears still in my hand. "You're violating the restraining order. We just want to talk, Mom." Michael held up his hands in a peacekeeping gesture. 5 minutes. That's all we're asking. "The answer is no. Leave or I'm calling the police." "Please." Jessica's voice was soft, pleading. Gone was the vicious woman who'd called me an old bitch. This Jessica looked tired, vulnerable, her eyes red-rimmed. "Eleanor, we just want to apologize. Properly. Face to face." Against my better judgment, something in me hesitated. Maybe it was decades of being a mother, programmed to give second chances. Maybe it was the part of me that still desperately wanted to believe my son could be redeemed. 5 minutes, I said. "We talk on the porch. You don't come inside." We sat on my porch furniture, the same chairs where Robert and I used to have morning coffee. The irony wasn't lost on me. Michael spoke first. Mom, I've had a lot of time to think about what I did, about how I treated you. He looked down at his hands. I was wrong. So wrong. And I'm sorry. We both are, Jessica added. Her hand found Michael's, squeezing it. Eleanor, I know you have every reason not to trust me, but I want you to understand. I never meant for things to go this far. I said nothing, just watched them. When Michael and I met, I was in a bad place, Jessica continued. Financially, emotionally. He told me about you, about how you had savings, and I thought maybe you could help us get started. Just a loan. That's all it was supposed to be. A loan that you stole by committing fraud, I said flatly. It got out of hand, Michael jumped in. Jessica's father, he's got these ideas about money, about how older people are just sitting on wealth they don't need. Stop. I held up my hand. I don't want to hear about Jessica's father's philosophy. You stole from me. You impersonated me at a bank. You took everything your father left behind to protect me. I know, and we want to make it right. Michael leaned forward earnestly. We're selling everything. Jessica's jewelry, my car, we've got a buyer for... You're doing that because your accounts are frozen and you're facing prison time, I interrupted, not because you suddenly found your conscience. Jessica's mask slipped for just a second. I saw a flash of irritation cross her face before she smoothed it away. That's not fair. We're trying to fix this. If you wanted to fix this, you would have returned the money before I had to involve the police. We didn't think you'd actually go through with pressing charges. Michael's voice rose. You're my mother. I thought you'd be upset. Maybe we'd have a fight, but I never thought you'd try to send me to prison. There it was. The real reason they'd come. They'd expected me to fall in line like a good, guilt-ridden mother. They'd counted on maternal love overriding justice. You thought wrong, I said quietly. Jessica stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. We're offering you everything back. Full restitution, an apology. What more do you want? I want consequences, I said, standing to meet her gaze. I want you to understand that you can't just steal from people and apologize your way out of it, even if that person is your own son. Michael stood too. What kind of mother sends her child to prison? What kind of son steals his mother's life savings? The masks dropped completely then. Jessica's face hardened into something ugly. You're a vindictive old woman who's bitter about her own pathetic life. You can't stand to see us happy, so you're destroying us. I'm holding you accountable. No, Jessica stepped closer, her voice dropping to a hiss. You're on a power trip. You finally have control over something and you're drunk on it. But let me tell you something, Eleanor. You're going to regret this. When Michael goes to prison, when his life is ruined, you're going to lie awake at night, knowing you did that to your own child. Jessica! Michael grabbed her arm, but she shook him off. No, she needs to hear this. You think you're so righteous, so justified. But you're just a lonely old woman who's going to die alone because you chose revenge over family. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Is that what you think this is? Revenge? What else would you call it? Justice, I said simply. Now get off my property before I call the police. Mom, please. Michael tried one last time, and for a moment, he looked like the boy I'd raised, desperate, scared. Please don't do this. I'm begging you. I'll do anything. I'll pay you back every penny. I'll work 3 jobs. You'll face the consequences of your actions, I said. That's what you'll do. Jessica's face twisted with rage. You're going to regret this, you miserable bitch. We're going to fight this in court. We're going to make you look like a senile old fool who doesn't know what she's talking about. My family has resources. Your family has lawyers, I interrupted calmly. I have evidence, security footage, forged signatures, federal charges. Good luck with that. Jessica grabbed Michael's hand and yanked him toward the car. At the driver's door, she turned back. This isn't over. Yes, I said. It is. They peeled out of my driveway, tires screeching. I stood on my porch, watching them disappear down the street, and realized my hands were shaking. Not from fear, from adrenaline, from the raw confrontation. Part of me was terrified. They'd come to my home, violated the restraining order, shown me exactly how far they were willing to go. But another part of me felt something stronger than fear, determination. They'd tried intimidation, they'd tried guilt, they'd tried bribery, they'd tried manipulation, and I'd stood firm against all of it. I went inside and called Detective Morrison. I need to report a restraining order violation. The courtroom was smaller than I'd expected. I'd imagined something grand, imposing, like you see in movies. Instead, it was a plain room with fluorescent lighting and uncomfortable wooden benches. But what happened in this room would determine everything. 3 weeks had passed since Michael and Jessica's violation of the restraining order, a violation that had resulted in additional charges and their bail being revoked. They'd spent the last 2 weeks in county jail, and I'd be lying if I said I hadn't lost sleep over it. But I hadn't wavered. Martin sat beside me, a thick folder of evidence on the table. Across the aisle, Michael and Jessica sat with their lawyer, a sharp-dressed man named Kenneth Priest, who'd come from Richard Brennan's money. Michael looked thinner, pale, prison jumpsuit instead of his usual casual designer clothes. He kept glancing at me, his eyes pleading, but I looked straight ahead. Jessica stared at me with undisguised hatred. The judge, the Honorable Margaret Chen, entered, and we all stood. She was a woman in her 60s, with steel gray hair and an expression that suggested she'd heard every excuse imaginable. This is a preliminary hearing for the charges of wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy, she began. I've reviewed the prosecution's evidence and the defense's motions. Mr. Priest, you've filed a motion to dismiss based on family reconciliation? Kenneth Priest stood smoothly. Your Honor, this is a case of family miscommunication that's been blown out of proportion. Mrs. Hartwell and her son had a disagreement over financial support. My clients acknowledge they made poor decisions in how they accessed funds, but there was no criminal intent. Mrs. Hartwell is elderly, possibly confused about the circumstances. I am not confused. The words came out before I could stop them. Judge Chen looked at me. Mrs. Hartwell, you'll have your chance to speak. Apologies, Your Honor, Martin said quickly. Priest continued. The defense is prepared to offer full restitution plus damages. The family wishes to reconcile and handle this matter privately. We believe the interests of justice would be better served. Mr. Priest, Judge Chen interrupted. I've seen the security footage. I've seen the forged signatures. I've read the FBI's analysis. This isn't a family squabble. These are serious felonies. Your Honor, with respect, my client Jessica Hartwell acted under duress. Her name is Jessica Brennan, I said loudly. She's not a Hartwell. She's a con artist with a history of targeting older men. Mrs. Hartwell, Judge Chen's voice was sharp, but her eyes held a glint of interest. You will remain silent or I'll have you removed. Martin stood. Your Honor, if I may present our evidence? For the next hour, Martin laid it all out. The security footage showing Jessica in disguise. The handwriting analysis proving the signatures were forged. The wire transfer documentation. The timeline showing premeditation. Weeks of planning, changing my mailing address, asking probing questions about my finances. Then he pulled out something I hadn't known about. Your Honor, we've also obtained Jessica Brennan's financial records through the FBI investigation. In the past 5 years, she's been engaged to 3 different men, all over the age of 60. In each case, large sums of money disappeared from the men's accounts shortly before the relationships ended. One man, George Patterson, filed a police report, but was convinced to drop charges when Ms. Brennan's family paid restitution. Another, David Kim, passed away before he could pursue action. The third, Leonard Moss, believed he'd given her the money willingly, until our investigators showed him the similarities to the other cases. Jessica jumped to her feet. That's a lie! Those men gave me gifts! They were— Sit down, Ms. Brennan, Judge Chen ordered. Your Honor, this is character assassination, Priest objected. Those cases have no bearing. They establish a pattern, Martin said calmly. A pattern of targeting vulnerable individuals, gaining their trust, and systematically draining their finances. Mrs. Hartwell's son was simply her way in. She researched Eleanor Hartwell through Michael, identified her as a widow with substantial savings, and executed a plan. I watched Jessica's face cycle through emotions. Shock that we'd uncovered her history, rage that her past was being exposed, and finally, cold calculation as she whispered furiously to her lawyer. Michael looked stunned. He was staring at Jessica like he'd never seen her before. Michael didn't know, did he? I said quietly. About your history. Judge Chen should have stopped me, but she didn't. Michael turned to Jessica. You told me your ex-fiancés were abusive, that you had to escape with nothing. Jessica's silence was damning. Oh my God, Michael whispered. You used me. Don't be stupid, Jessica hissed. This was for us, for our future. You manipulated me into stealing from my own mother. You wanted the money just as much as I did. Jessica's composure shattered completely. Don't pretend you're innocent. You're the one who suggested taking it all at once instead of gradually. You're the one who said she wouldn't fight back because she's old and weak. The courtroom went silent. Even Priest looked horrified. Michael was shaking his head, tears streaming down his face. What have I done? Mom, Enough, Judge Chen said sharply. Ms. Brennan, you've just incriminated yourself and your co-defendant with that outburst. Jessica realized too late what she'd done. I want a new lawyer. You'll get nothing of the sort. Mr. Priest, do you wish to continue with the motion to dismiss? Priest looked at his clients, then at the evidence spread across Martin's table, and made a decision. Your Honor, I'd like to request a recess to confer with my clients about a possible plea agreement. Judge Chen nodded. Motion to dismiss is denied. We'll reconvene in 1 hour to discuss plea negotiations. This court is in recess. As we stood, Michael caught my eye across the courtroom. Mom? He mouthed. I looked at him. Really looked at him. My son. The boy I'd raised, who'd stolen everything from me, who'd called me a bitter old hag, who'd violated the restraining order to try to manipulate me one last time. And I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just a cold, clear certainty that I'd done the right thing. I turned and walked out of the courtroom without looking back. The plea negotiations took 3 days. Priest tried every angle, reduced charges, suspended sentences, probation instead of prison time. The prosecution, backed by the FBI and the overwhelming evidence, refused to budge. Finally, facing a trial they couldn't win, Michael and Jessica accepted the plea deal. Jessica Brennan, guilty of wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy. Sentenced to 8 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years supervised probation. Full restitution of $186,000 plus $50,000 in punitive damages. Permanent felony record. Michael Hartwell, guilty of conspiracy and accessory to wire fraud. Sentenced to 4 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years supervised probation. Joint liability for full restitution. Permanent felony record. I sat in the courtroom for the sentencing hearing, Patricia on one side, Martin on the other. Judge Chen looked at Jessica first. Ms. Brennan, you've made a career of exploiting vulnerable people. You targeted the elderly, the lonely, the grieving. You stole not just money, but trust. You destroyed families. 8 years is lenient considering the damage you've caused. Then she turned to Michael. Mr. Hartwell, you betrayed the woman who gave you life. You stole your father's legacy. You abandoned your mother with barely enough money to survive. The fact that you were manipulated by Ms. Brennan is no excuse. You made choices. You face consequences. 4 years. 4. The gavel came down. Jessica screamed. Actual screaming, fighting against the bailiffs as they tried to lead her away. This is bullshit. That old bitch ruined my life. I hope you die alone, Eleanor. I hope. The bailiffs removed her forcibly. Michael was quieter. He looked at me one last time, tears streaming down his face. "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." I said nothing. After the sentencing, reporters were waiting outside the courthouse. The case had attracted media attention. Elderly woman fights back against son's theft, made for compelling headlines. I gave one statement, short and clear. "I want other seniors to know that family doesn't give anyone the right to steal from you. Don't be ashamed to fight back. Don't let guilt silence you. What happened to me can happen to anyone, but we don't have to accept it." The video went viral. By that evening, I'd received hundreds of messages from people sharing their own stories: children who'd stolen, grandchildren who'd forged checks, caregivers who'd emptied accounts, people who'd been too afraid or too ashamed to fight back. 1 week after sentencing, I received a cashier's check for $236,000, the restitution plus damages. Jessica's family had liquidated assets to pay it. Richard Brennan had wanted to protect his daughter from prison, but once the evidence became public, even he couldn't save her. I deposited it immediately, then sat in my car in the bank parking lot and cried. Not from relief, not from joy, from the sheer exhaustion of it all. Patricia found me there 20 minutes later. "Ellie, I got my money back," I said. "All of it, plus damages." "That's wonderful. Then why do I feel so empty?" Patricia climbed into the passenger seat and took my hand. "Because you didn't just win a court case, honey. You lost your son. That money is back, but the relationship is gone. You're allowed to grieve that." She was right. Michael was my only child. Despite everything, there was a hollow space in my heart where a mother's love used to be. But I didn't regret what I'd done. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. From Michael, written in the county jail before his transfer to federal prison. "Mom, I know you probably won't read this. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I need you to know you were right. About everything. Jessica used me. I was too stupid and greedy to see it. I stole from you. I said horrible things. I destroyed our relationship for money that wasn't even mine to take. I have 4 years to think about what I did. 4 years to become someone different, someone better. I don't expect you to wait for me. I don't expect you to ever speak to me again. But if I ever get the chance, I'm going to spend the rest of my life making this right. I love you. I'm sorry, Michael." I read it once, then put it in a drawer. I wasn't ready to forgive. Maybe I never would be. But I kept the letter. The Bridge Club threw me a celebration dinner at the community center. Doris made a toast. To Eleanor, who showed us all that being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. Tom Rodriguez added, "And that family means nothing if there's no respect." I raised my glass, surrounded by people who'd become my real family. "To justice," I said, "and to never being too old to fight back." Later that night, sitting in my living room, the house that was paid off, secure, mine, I thought about Robert, about the life insurance money that was meant to protect me. I'd fought for it. I'd won it back. And more than that, I'd proven something to myself. I was strong. I was capable. I was not a victim. Michael and Jessica were in prison. Their crimes were public record, their reputations destroyed, and I was free. 6 months after the sentencing, my life looked completely different. I'd used part of the damages money to finally take that trip to Italy that Robert and I had always planned. Patricia came with me. We spent 2 weeks wandering through Rome, Florence, and Venice, eating pasta and gelato, laughing like teenagers. "Robert would be proud of you," Patricia said one evening, watching the sunset over the Grand Canal. "For living your life." I'd also started volunteering at a legal aid clinic that specialized in elder abuse cases. Twice a week, I sat with seniors who'd been victimized by family members and scammers. I shared my story. I helped them understand their rights. "You give people hope," the clinic director told me. "They see you and think, if she can do it, so can I." The Bridge Club became my family. We'd expanded from just cards to potluck dinners, movie nights, book club. Doris started dating a widower. Martha's daughter, who'd been pressuring her to sign over her house, backed off after seeing news articles about my case. My story caught the attention of a journalist writing a book about financial elder abuse. When it was published, I was invited to speak at senior centers across Oregon and Washington. At one event in Seattle, an 80-year-old woman approached me, crying, "My son has been stealing my Social Security checks for 3 years. I was too ashamed to tell anyone. But hearing you, I'm going to report him." "Good," I told her. "You deserve better." Meanwhile, Jessica's life had collapsed completely. Serving 8 years in federal prison, she'd been abandoned by her family. Richard Brennan had publicly disowned her. Her appeals were denied. Her previous victims had sued her for money she'd never be able to pay. Michael, at a minimum security facility in Colorado, was at least trying to change. His counselor told me he was taking courses, working in the prison library, attending therapy. He'd divorced Jessica, refusing her manipulative calls from prison. Did I feel guilty? Sometimes late at night. But then I'd remember her voice calling me a bitter old woman. I'd remember the security footage, the Facebook post about their rich life, and the guilt would fade. One evening, Patricia asked, "Are you happy, Ellie? Really happy?" I thought about Italy, the legal clinic, the bridge club, my secure home and restored savings, waking up each morning without fear. "Yes," I said, "I really am." "Good," Patricia smiled, "because you deserve to be." And for the first time in a long time, I believed her. Looking back now, I learned something crucial. Love without boundaries isn't love. It's enabling. I'd raised Michael to believe he was entitled to everything I had. I'd failed to teach him consequences, but I'd taught myself something valuable. It's never too late to stand up for yourself. Age doesn't make you weak. Experience makes you stronger. To anyone listening who's facing something similar, you're not alone. You're not being cruel. You're being strong. What would you have done in my situation? Think about it, talk about it, and never let anyone make you feel powerless. Thank you for listening to my story.